Hey there, this is Seth from the RE Tipster blog. I wanted to show you a service that I've been using for just a couple of months now, and I've just been really impressed with how it works and all the different benefits that it brings to the table. And the service is the one that you're looking at right here. This is the website for RocketLawyer.com. And the thing that makes this service so incredibly helpful is twofold. First of all, it makes it extremely easy to create pretty much any kind of document that you would ever need in the real estate space. Say if you're trying to create a deed or a land contract or a purchase agreement or a deed of trust or anything like that, it's just very easy to just put in the inputs and it will generate the form that is specific to that particular state that you're working at. It basically just does all the heavy lifting for you. And then the other thing, which I want to show you in this video, is just how easy it is to get your questions answered. And if you're running a business that's anything like mine, I buy and sell properties all over the country in several different states. And when I was first getting started and I did all of my deals in one state, it wasn't really that big of a deal to sort of figure out how the rules work. And once I had been through all the processes once, I kind of just understood it and I knew what to do. But when you're working in places like Alabama and California and Texas and North Carolina and all these places, all of these states have these little nuances and just differences in the ways that they handle certain parts of the process, like for example seller financing and the closing process, and whether or not you need a witness signature on all of your documents, and how to handle the foreclosure and all of this different stuff. There's a lot of times when I come across these just random questions where I don't know how something works in the state that I'm working in, and I don't really want to have to Google a real estate attorney in that state and schedule an appointment and spend 30 minutes and pay $600 just to get a really simple question answered. And that's where Rocket Lawyer has just done an amazing thing, where they have this giant network of attorneys all over the country, and you can just ask your question about that state, and within usually about a day or less, you'll get a response from an attorney who specializes in real estate in that state. And sometimes the answers will be really helpful. Other times they'll just be more on the surface and kind of point you in the right general direction. But either way, it just makes it way easier when you have this kind of centralized place where you can ask these questions without having to search all over the place trying to find somebody who you don't even know is reputable. And I just want to show you one quick example of a question that I was trying to get answered last month, and I just submitted the question just like you see it here, and within about 48 hours I had 3 answers from 3 different attorneys that were all relatively helpful. And I'll just show you this one for example. I asked the question and then he sent me this response, and let's just view the previous. And the cool thing you might notice here is that I asked the question and then he sent me the answer. And then I asked him another follow-up question, and then he sent me another answer. And then I asked another follow-up question, and then he sent me another follow-up answer. And all this stuff was really very easy, and I could just do it from the comfort of my computer. I didn't have to call anybody. I didn't have to set up an appointment to talk to this person. As a paying subscriber to Rocket Lawyer, this is just one of the benefits that I got, which I thought was just extremely convenient. And as you can see, the price of a subscription is really not too crazy. I'm currently signed up for the premium subscription, just paying monthly. And if I had started paying yearly, which I might switch over to, I can actually save 20%. And as you can see, it's not necessarily cheap, but if you have regular ongoing questions, or if you regularly have to create state-specific documents all the time, it's really kind of a bargain just because of the fact that they make it so easy to get your questions answered and to create your documents without having to do a lot of searching all over the internet for the right template and hoping that it's right, or hiring an attorney to do it for you. It's sort of like your one-stop shop to solving all these problems, and it comes with some really nice benefits. One thing I want to show you in this video is, once you're signed on as a subscriber, how you can ask your questions and get them answered fairly quickly and easily. So let's go over and check that out. This is what Rocket Lawyer looks like when you're logged in, and if you've got some questions that you need to have answered, you just go over here where it says questions and click on that. Then you can click Start New. And I'm just going to ask my question here. And one of the questions that I've been trying to wrestle with over the past few weeks is understanding the differences in how seller financing works from state to state. Because in some states you can use a land contract, and that's the best way to do it based on the laws there. And then in other states you want to use a deed of trust because that's an easier, more sensible way to use it in that state. So here's my question. And I'm actually going to ask this question in a few different states just so you can follow along with me and see what kind of answers I get back from these different attorneys in these different states. Essentially, my question is, in Alabama or fill in the blank state, if I'm using seller financing to sell a piece of real estate, does it make more sense for me to use a land contract, i.e. contract for deed, or a deed of trust, and why? And once you've got your simple question put in there, you just pick the state that you're referring to. So we'll click that. And how would you like your answer? We'll just say by email. And now what is this question about? It's my business. And then please select a practice area. We are doing real estate. So we'll click that. And we will just click submit. And then we're going to ask this exact same question in just a couple other states, just so you can kind of get a feel for what sort of answers we'll get from those other areas. So let's ask this in Texas this time and just see what they have to say. And then again, we'll say by email, and then my business, and then real estate, and we will submit that. And now let's ask it again in California. By email, my business, real estate. And then let's do this in Michigan. And then let's do this also in Arizona. And then by email, and then my business, and then real estate. Okay, so we've sent out a few questions here. I don't know what the answers are going to be, but I'm guessing just based on my past experience of asking these other questions here below, we're going to find that some of the answers we get back are going to be like really helpful, and other ones are going to be just sort of like mildly helpful. They're not going to be all that detailed. And that's because, I mean, just like anybody, you're dealing with real people here, and some people are better than others at answering these kind of questions in great detail. So I'm going to pause this video for now, and then we're going to come back to this once we've gotten a handful of answers, and we will see just how helpful it was. Okay, I'm coming back at you now. I was actually planning on waiting like a day or so to come back and record the second half of this video, but it's been less than an hour, and I already have 4 of the 5 questions I originally submitted. So let's just check them out since they're here, and we'll just see what kind of responses we got. This one right here, let's see, it looks like in response to my question, he's saying, there's a specific contract for this. Do you have a real estate agent? So it's not exactly answering my question. Now, at this point, all I would have to do is click here on Ask David a Follow-Up Question, and I could say, yes, I know I don't have an agent. Can you tell me in Arizona which document would you recommend I use? Land contract or a deed of trust? And all I would have to do is submit this, and then whenever he has a chance, he would respond to me, and then I would hear his thoughts on that. So let's go back to the other questions here, see what they had to say. This guy says, and this is in Michigan, he says, yes, we use land contracts in Michigan, not familiar with the others. And I actually already knew that. Part of the reason I asked it is because I just wanted to see if I would get the answer I thought I was going to get, because sometimes you can be surprised. In Michigan, I know you can use either a land contract or a deed of trust, but pretty much 9 times out of 10, everybody I've ever known in this state uses land contracts because the foreclosure process here is fairly straightforward if you have it worded correctly in the first place, whereas it's not necessarily that straightforward in other states. So that's just kind of interesting. Now we can go back here. Let's check out what this answer says. And again, this was in California. And as you can see here, this is a much more detailed answer. And he's even asking some follow-up questions to kind of get a better idea of what I'm doing and if this is really the right thing for me. And again, I could just go ahead and add more clarity here to why I asked the question and maybe get more further insights from him on what I should be doing. And also keep in mind, when you get answers that are either helpful or unhelpful, you can go ahead and rate the answer. And I don't know what that really does. I don't know if that somehow helps the attorney within RocketLawyer system or if it's totally inconsequential, but for whatever it's worth, just go ahead and rate it. And then going back here to this other question we've got, and this was in Texas, this guy is saying, no, seller financing with a promissory note and proper mortgage are the best way to protect yourself. A contract for deed or a lease to own can cause problems. So I guess he's not really answering my questions with regard to the deed of trust specifically. It sounds like he's more sort of pointing me in the direction of probably what he's most used to using, which is totally fine. That's kind of the insight that I'm looking for. So I guess what I would do here is ask a follow-up question. Do not have a loan on the property. I own it free and clear. Is a deed of trust the property I'm selling? My goal is to, if the buyer ever stops paying. So I'm just going to fire that back at him and see if he has anything helpful to say about that. And you kind of get the idea. I mean, I'm not necessarily to the conclusion yet on any of these lines of questioning. I don't necessarily have all of my answers yet. But I mean, as you can see, I've kind of just started the process. And something you'll probably find with a lot of these attorneys when you ask them questions is that some of them are more than happy to just give you all the answers and just kind of tell you exactly how to do what you're trying to do. And some of them are more along the lines of they sort of just give you these vague answers because what they want you to do is ultimately hire them to close your transaction for you. So don't be surprised if when you ask these questions and the answers you get, they're not always going to be like slam dunk, boom, that answers everything, I'm done, I can move on. Sometimes they will be, sometimes they won't be. And sometimes you'll find that when you ask a question in one state, if you give it enough time, you'll actually get answers back from not just one, but a few different attorneys, and they'll kind of give you their 2 cents on it. And I think you'll find that the more specific and to the point you can be in your line of questioning so that you don't really leave any room for them to sort of go on these tangents and start going in other directions, but just say, hey, look, this is what I'm trying to do. Is this going to work? Again, it's still not any kind of guarantee that they're going to answer your question directly or to the extent that you want, but the more clarity you can add to your question in the first place, the more clarity you're likely to get from them when they answer you. So that's how the Rocket Lawyer Q&A function works. And again, this is all no additional charge as long as you are signed up as a monthly or annual subscriber to the service. So I just thought it was pretty cool and I wanted to share it with you. And if this is something you're interested in, I'm going to have an affiliate link below this video. Feel free to check them out. And if it looks like the right fit for you, give it a shot and you'll see what it's all about.